So what if I told you there's a guaranteed blueprint for personal growth, and it's been hiding in plain sight inside a 2,500-year-old text? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to unlock a timeless guide for anyone on a path of self-development, a teaching called the Sekhasutta.
And right from the start, the promise in this text is just wow. It says that if you follow this path, you are bound to break through. It's not a question of if, but when. The whole journey is framed as this natural, totally inevitable process, kind of like a chick hatching from its egg. It's gonna happen.
All right, let's set the scene. Picture this. We're in ancient India, in the Buddha's hometown. His relatives, the Sakyans, have just built this beautiful, brand new assembly hall. And to kick things off, they've asked him to be the very first person to use it. So you know, it's a pretty big deal.
So the Buddha gets up, he speaks for a while, but then he says his back is getting a little tired, and he does something really interesting. He delegates. He turns to his chief attendant, Ānanda, and says, hey, why don't you lay out the step-by-step path for a learner, for someone who's really committed to this whole thing?
And what Ānanda lays out, well, on the surface, it looks pretty straightforward. Be ethical, guard your senses, eat moderately, stay awake, have some good qualities, and meditate. It honestly looks like a clean, almost modern checklist for self-improvement. Seems simple enough, right?
But this is where our deep dive really begins. Because that simple list, that first glance translation, is hiding something so much more dynamic, so much more powerful. We are about to crack the code of these ancient words.
And that means we have to ask a pretty important question. What have we lost in translation over 2.5 millennia? I mean, what if the original intent behind these instructions was way more active, more creative, and just deeper than it looks on paper?
Let's start with the title itself, Sekha. Now, the standard translation is trainee or learner, which, let's be honest, sounds kind of passive, right? Like you're just showing up for class. But if we dig down to the root of the word, it's really pointing to the act of committing, of binding yourself to a path. It's not about being a passive student. It's about being an active agent in your own growth. It's a choice.
So how do we find these deeper meanings? Well, we use a tool from that exact same ancient tradition called Niruti. The best way to think of it is like a linguistic decoder ring. It's this incredible method for analyzing language that gets you past the surface definition to uncover the core function and the real hidden intent of a word.
So, now that we have our key, we're going to do something a little different. We are not just going to translate words into other words. No, we're going to translate these ancient concepts into modern visuals so we can actually see the deeper meaning in action.
Okay, first instruction, guard the sense doors. It sounds so defensive, doesn't it? Like you're supposed to build a fortress around your mind to keep all the bad things out. But the root meaning is so much more empowering. It's not about guarding, it is about curating. See, this isn't about fearfully blocking out the world. It's about consciously choosing what you let in, what you engage with, and what you just scroll past. Think about it like managing your mind's own social media feed. You are the algorithm. You get to choose the content that shapes your entire inner world.
And this active, creative approach continues with the next instruction, no moderation in eating. Now, on the surface, this sounds like just another diet rule, Don't overeat. But again, Niruti reveals a much deeper purpose. This isn't about restriction. It's about strategic fuel.
Think of it this way. Your body is the vehicle you're using for this journey. So food isn't some temptation you have to resist. It's the high-grade, premium fuel you need for peak performance. You're not just counting calories here. You're monitoring your dashboard, making sure you have the exact energy required for the really hard work of breaking through.
And for our final example, let's look at be devoted to wakefulness. This one can really sound like a call for sleep deprivation, which, no thanks. But the root instruction isn't just about staying awake. It's about what you do with that time. It's an active, daily process of mental maintenance. Right? So this is not about fighting sleep. It's about regularly clearing the cache of your mind. It's like a daily practice of defragmenting your mental hard drive, of tidying up your desktop, of closing all those unnecessary tabs so your mind can run smoothly and efficiently.
So, when you stop guarding and start curating, when you stop restricting and start fueling, and when you stop just resisting sleep and start actively clearing your mind, what happens? Well, we come right back to that central promise, the breakthrough. Only now, we can understand it in a whole new light.
This breakthrough happens in 3 stages. First, with that clear mind, you start to see your own life not as just a jumble of random memories, but as a coherent storyline, a clear path. Then you zoom out. You start to recognize these universal patterns of cause and effect everywhere, seeing how actions and consequences are connected for everyone. And finally, armed with that insight, you can resolve the core inner conflicts that hold you back and achieve a real, profound freedom.
And what's the ultimate goal in all this? It's a state where your understanding and your actions are no longer two separate things. It's where what you know to be true is perfectly reflected in how you live, from one moment to the next. Your seeing and your walking become this single, beautifully integrated process.
There's a word for this in the original language, vidya charana sampanno. The surface translation is accomplished in knowledge and conduct. Fine, but the root meaning tells the whole story. Vidya is your seeing, your deep insight. Charana is your walking, your way of life. And sampanno means perfectly complete together. It's a state of total, unshakable integrity.
So why does any of this matter? Why go so deep into linguistics? Because it reveals a fundamental truth that's just as real today as it was 2,500 years ago. It's all about the incredible power of the language we use to frame our own lives.
And the text does not mess around when it talks about how important this state is. It actually quotes a celestial being who declares that the person who achieves this perfect integration of knowing and doing is, quote, supreme among gods and humans. So, yeah, this isn't some small goal. It's basically presented as the pinnacle of existence.
And this really is the core takeaway for all of us. Are you a passive trainee, or are you one who commits? Are you fearfully guarding against the world, or are you actively curating your reality? The words you choose aren't just labels, they are instructions. They are literally the code that builds your world.
So, we'll leave you with this question. Take a look at the words you use, the ones you use to describe your goals, your challenges, your own path of growth. Because if those words are the actual blueprint for your journey, where exactly are you walking?